Okay, I am going to do something here. I'm doing my first large scale Bigfoot presentation this weekend in Marionville, Pennsylvania, the Forest County Bigfoot Festival. And I've got to do this presentation that I've got here in front of you. And I'm just thinking of technical difficulties and things that might could go wrong. And I need to time it. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it here and go ahead and post it on the site. Anybody is up that way this weekend, it'd be awesome to see you. I go on at 11, Saturday, 11 a.m., right there in the town square. So it's going to be fun. Really looking forward to it. Put something together here, and I thought I'd just run through it and video it while I did. So I'm going to, of course, start with my channel, Smith Ridge Adventures. And again, stress to everybody, I'm not trying to monetize this or out there being an official YouTuber. I just like to post the stuff that maybe I talk about on podcasts or shows, and I like to have the proof and the evidence up there. So I'm going to start with, many of you may or may not know this, that know me. I'm going to start with a little of my background as to why I think maybe I'm able to find or interact or be around Bigfoot in the land between the lakes. And it has a lot to do with how I was raised. And so this guy right here, this is Colonel Charlie Beckwith. He started Delta Force and basically pioneered probably most of what we use for counterterrorism and special operations, tactics, techniques, groups, those things. He was one of the founding fathers of that. And then that's my dad beside him. My dad was one of the first members of Delta Force. And I was raised when he was in the prime of that. You know, my dad would disappear for months at a time, say he was going around the world, quick phone calls occasionally, and very much involved in what was probably more spy stuff. But he was always practicing, training me on escape and evasion, defense, how to be undetected, just things that maybe I think I've used since my Bigfoot experience to help me really get a lot of evidence and activity. And so I'm going to touch on that, and then I'm going to move on from that and talk about land between the lakes. You know, it's about 8 miles wide at its widest point, give or take. 40 miles long. Then I'm going to hustle through it here. I'll go a little farther through it for the people that are up there in Pennsylvania. You know, they're in the Allegheny Forest, which is 5 times as big. This is 170,000 acres with a top height of 663 feet here at the Devil's Backbone. Well, you know, Allegheny's 500,000 acres and 2,000 feet high. So it's small compared to where I'm going to be, but still a pretty vast area. So I'm just going to touch on that. I'm going to touch on the history of it as far as paranormal and just the amount of cemeteries and things there, and then show some of my experiences. This is Mr. Bannister. He's in Pinnaker Cemetery, and he'll actually talk to you on a K2 meter. And sometimes he gets kind of grumpy. He was murdered. He was actually shot through his window in the back of the head while he was eating dinner on July 18th, 1935. And here's an orb I caught in a cemetery. Actual really good free-floating, not dust, not a bug. If you zoom in on it, you can see where it appears to even be emitting a little light. So I'm going to touch on that. I'm going to touch on the history. That is a Model T car. You can see the door handle there. It's upside down. So you can still get the basically the cab there in the shell. Of course, there's rattlesnakes. I show this. This is, you know, I was able to stalk up on a pretty big buck deer there, and again, I like to do that. It was a little warm for me. I think I got covered in ticks and bugs and things this day. This was one of my last summer trips out. Um, but it's just a beautiful place, and I'm going to show a few slides about my family and how we actually get out and enjoy this. I take people out. We find footprints frequently. Girls get involved in that, and then I'm actually going to talk about my story and my sighting. I'm not going to go into that here, but it's well documented. And but basically on May 10th in 2020, we saw this. We saw and had an interaction with the Bigfoot. This is a sketch I did. The original report is called "The Beast of LBL" on the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization's YouTube. You can check that out. Charlie Raymond, Lindsay Raymond, Brent, they were all there. Did a great job. They do a video. They actually get later that night when they camped, they get some howls and some sounds that were analyzed to be not anything we think would be in the woods, and they get some response knocks. So it was kind of really cool. When I got into that after that happened to me, and I'm just having not been into Bigfoot before, and trying to get into it. This is Cliff Brockman. This is a model that he has. A guy in Ohio, special effects guy, did that, and he's got it in his museum, and that's what I saw. That is the most realistic, closest thing. And I listened to an interview with him on the Bigfoot Hangout with Lindsay and Charlie. They had him on, man. It's a neat thing, but he was talking about how he asks people to compare their experience with this, and it's without a doubt. He says most people do a little tweaking, but they say that's it. So I include that up there. If you ask me what I'm seeing, that's it. And so then I'm going to go into some of the various prints and things that I have found, and my wife and my girls have found. You can't see them all as well on here. They never show up as well. That's one of my favorites right there. This is a good one too. This is the one that we cast in that picture earlier. Going to talk about finding bones and things, and that's not too out of the ordinary, really, to find bones and then speculate, how they got there. But then you find stuff like this. And I was by myself and didn't really have any way to measure that. I could not touch that. I could not reach up and easily grab that. I think I was able to touch it on my tippy toes. So it's 6 feet up there. And that's a deer skull. So you do find strange stuff, and this is way off the path here, in kind of a pine thicket in a clearing. No other bones around. So anyway, I'm going to talk about that. This is something that, man, this fascinates me. Just when you start looking at the things that can happen in the wilderness that can be misinterpreted or seen. And stickfall is certainly one of those, but prints, interactions, sounds, scat, bones, all common, just not shocking. And then for me, when you start walking around and seeing things that are obviously made by something intelligent on purpose, and placed in situations where there is no payout for, like, a prankster, for example, to really get the payoff. It's just interesting. And you see this stuff, you climb 200 feet up the crest of a hill, or you walk 2 to 4 miles in. And then one of the things I'm going to touch on, this is actually pretty cool. I have an area. I've actually seen Sasquatch multiple times just kind of reveal themselves and peek up around this ridge. And this is an area I go to. And when I got back one day and I found this tree, and of course you can see the big part of the trees up there. So this tree is sizable. had been placed in this. And I was telling a gentleman, Daryl Denton, I was telling him about this, and without any prompting or me really asking him, he says, well, close by where there's some smaller trees or pieces of trees with all the bark missing. Yes, there were. You can see what I feel like these were right at the base. The tree I just showed you is right over here. And then he starts explaining to me that this is a boundary marker for juveniles. And that's telling them basically they stay on this side, I stay on this side, which is what I had actually already done. And, I had another guy, Larry Sidwell, been doing this stuff a long time. He had told me right off the bat, I think you're in an area with a lot of juveniles in it. So it's neat when you start going down the rabbit hole and you meet these people and you start finding things out like that. It's like, man, he had no way of knowing that. So anyway, this is my favorite one. Look at this little thing. This was actually farther down at the base of this, and you can clearly see where that's twisted and been broken and manipulated. And then look at this thing. I mean, that's on purpose. That's made that way. So really to me, a higher level of creativity, intelligence, purpose, whether it's art or navigation or communication, I don't know, but it fascinates me. And so then I'm going to talk about also some pics. I haven't put a lot of these on here, but I'm going to purposely lead with something like this. And this is what people will call pareidolia or mysterious. Now, I zoomed in on this pic. This is the head of a Sasquatch right here. I saw it. I caught him. I think he's hiding his eyes right behind this stick. If you take this picture and you change the aspects, all the greenery changes the same way. This changes a little different. So I know what's there. I saw it. I had to really zoom in after I took the pics to find it. But I will never dispute anybody for saying, move on, Mike. That's not it. And here's why. Do you see the Scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz right there? This is from the Patterson-Gimlin film. It's zoomed from the back. Patty would be right over here. And then actually a little farther over in here is the Wicked Witch is in that. And that's just pareidolia. That's just our eyes seeing a face and a familiar face and assigning something known to it. So I get it. Now I'm going to go ahead and show here some interesting stuff. For example, I believe this is the eye and head and part of a nose of a Sasquatch that was peeking at us. My wife actually saw this one as well. It would move back and forth. And you want to look at this stick right here and note that here this stick is on the second picture I took real quickly, and that object is not there. It has moved. And we witnessed that. But I want to show people how far away that was. We were watching this object in this shape move along. I actually saw it moving a little bit, and it got in there. But, so something's there. But that's what you're getting with your cell phone. And I'm honestly not a guy that's out trying to take pictures. I think if I did, I'd use some old school stuff, some really, really old school Patterson-Gimlin type stuff. Another one, see a black dot right here. I felt like I'd seen something creeping up on me. It's gone. It would be right in here. And what's interesting is, like, you look, you say, well, that's whatever it could be, light reflections. See this kind of junk down here, this brownish stuff down here? It's right there. I do move a little bit. Here's the stick right there, and then you can see that same thing. I was walking as I was taking these pictures, but again, there was something there that's not there anymore, and again, really far away. You can see how I moved up and change my angle a little bit. But again, something's there. This is the best one I've gotten. Um, and I saw this running across a ridge and actually just turned my phone on and was taking pictures where I thought it would be. And it was so fast, I actually barely caught him in the corner. This is the arm going up into the shoulder and head area. And you can see in the next picture then, I feel like it was starting to run away, but you can definitely tell where the object has changed its orientation and moved. And again, for reference, my wife and I went back, and my girls went back the next weekend. This is me. This is my body and my head. I got a hood on and a hat. I got my arms up, my hands up. There's my chest pack. So I'm in that space where my pictures came from here looking that way. We missed it a little. You can see this line right there. Let me go back. Right there it is. Right there it is. So we missed it a little bit, but you can see that there's room for a man-sized object up there. The space is clear. It's not a stump or leaves or anything like that. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit, and then I'm going to talk about just, just recently when we've had experiences now that we know what's out there and we're aware of it. Just up to a couple weeks ago, and we find, I think these are hog bones. There was two different types of vertebrae and torsos. I felt like one was a deer and one was a hog, but they were right there in the same area, within feet of each other. And then we found, I think it might have even been dug out with a couple of these sticks. We found all these shells that didn't look like they had been hatched out. It looked like they'd been cracked and eaten, turtle shells, because we found the hole and there were still some eggs down in there where it looked like it had been dug out with maybe a stick or some hands or both. And then we find stuff like this. My wife found this. That's a wreath in an area where all the grapevines were intermingled with briars and thorny type vines. But in these grapevines had not only been separated, had also been manipulated into a circle, and this was an arch that had been made. There was tons of other stuff around there. Tons of other stuff. There was footprint, not a slam dunk, but the shape and the impression was there. You can see, again, it's hard on a video with a picture, but footprint. So lots of cool stuff happening in Land Between the Lakes. I usually end up a lot of my videos with Adventure Continues. I share with everybody. I'm going to share In the Shadow of Big Red Eye. So Mike Familiant, he's actually going to be the master of ceremonies this weekend at the festival. He invited me up there. Really cool. A lot of LBL stuff, a lot of my stuff personally on Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization, Small Town Monsters documentaries, Sasquatch Odyssey, that's Brian King Sharp. Been on Tinfoil Tales, Joe and Jesse on Hellbent Holler. Talked to them a lot, ended up being good friends. Joe and I are getting to be pretty good friends. Looking forward to getting out with them. Jeremiah on Bigfoot Society, Roger Williams, Squatch and Holler, Joshua Smith, Mystery Unknown, Vic Cundiff on Dogman Encounters. So anyway, just thought I would put that out here. Timing looks like we're right at about 20 minutes. I'm gonna post this to the site, and hope everything goes well this weekend, and hope anybody that doesn't get up there and is interested and is watching this enjoyed it as well. Okay, thank you.